A big one.
I hate it when that happens.
Hey, Will? Is that you?
Of course it's me. Can't you tell?
No, not if we all look the same.
I don't.
Will, we are krill. We are meant to look the same.
Not me, Bill. There's only one of me in all the world. I am one in a trillion.
Where are you going?
I'm leaving! I want to be free, Bill!
There's no such thing as free, Will. Come on, less thinking, more swarming.
I'm sick of swarming. We've been swarming all our lives.
Sometimes, Will, it's like you've got a mind of your own.
Tell me, Bill, what lies beyond the swarm?
More swarm.
And then?
Some more swarm.
And then?
Will, there's nothing but swarm. We are a swarm without end.
Everything's got an end. See? I end here.
That is not a happy ending.
It stands to reason, Bill. If I swim against the swarm, I must eventually reach the end of the world. Yeah.
Will! What are we even looking for?
That's the beauty of it, my friend. I don't know.
Will, please, come back! I fear the worst!
I feared the worst too, Bill, because fearing the best is a complete waste of time. Oh, yeah. There!
Maybe that's a black hole.
They're just myths. Scary talk to keep us in the swarm.
Coming out of nowhere, swallowing everything in its path.
For something that doesn't exist, it's very impressive. Oh, yes. It's beautiful. So this is all we are. Lunch. To think we spent our whole lives not knowing the truth.
Goodbye, Krill World.
Today on Animal Fact Files, we're talking about krill. But what exactly are these tiny creatures? Krill are marine planktonic crustaceans who kind of look like baby shrimp, though they aren't. There are currently just over 80 recognized species of krill, and they can be found in all the world's oceans. Different species have different preferences on where they live. Some, like the Antarctic krill, like it cold and are generally found in polar regions, while others may be found floating close to the equator. Krill are some of the largest zooplankton living in our oceans, with some species reaching more than 2 inches in length, basically the length of a paperclip. Some species drift in the open ocean, while others are found on coastal shelves. Some live in deep water, while others stick closer to the surface. And many species undergo daily migrations in search of food. During the day, many krill species will sink lower in the water column. At night, they'll rise closer to the water's surface and feed. Being tiny themselves, krill eat some pretty small meals. They generally dine on phytoplankton, copepods, fish eggs and larvae, detritus, and algae. Ice algae can be a main staple in the diets of some krill species, so these depend on ice formations in order to meet their dietary needs. Krill in turn are eaten by, well, basically everything in the ocean. Maybe not like everything, but animals from penguins to seals to fish to the largest animals living on our planet, the whales, depend on krill in order to survive. So, even though they might seem insignificant, krill are one of the foundational aspects of the oceanic food web. Krill are found in groups called swarms. In 1 cubic meter of water, there can be an average of 10,000 individual krill. To put that into perspective, that would be like having 3,000 individual krill swimming around in your bathtub. And that's just one part of the krill swarm. A swarm of krill may be only a dozen or 2 feet long, but some swarms can go on for miles. That amounts to a lot of krill, which is perfect for animals like blue whales who, during some parts of the year, need to eat 4 tons of krill per day. Being in a group can make finding a mate much easier as well. Some species of krill bioluminesce. This may be a means of communication, such as letting all the other krill around know that there's a hungry whale nearby, or it could also be a means of attracting a mate. Male krill will seek out a female who he'll basically hug until it's time to part ways. The female will either release her fertilized eggs to sink towards the bottom of the ocean, or she may hold onto them until they're ready to hatch. Usually the krill that release their eggs have more eggs at a time, while the ones that hold onto their eggs have fewer. Once they hatch, krill undergo a few life stages, molting as they grow until they reach adulthood. In Antarctic krill specifically, it takes about 10 days for the released eggs to hatch, and about 10 days between each larval stage. But this is just one example of how these diverse creatures develop. Some species may live less than a year, while...
Surrounding the continent of Antarctica, the Southern Ocean makes up only 10% of the global ocean, but it plays an outsized role in the fight against climate change. It is one of the largest regional ocean carbon sinks for atmospheric CO2. This is partly due to Antarctic krill, the largest species within an order of small crustaceans at the center of the food web. Algae store carbon from the atmosphere during photosynthesis, and krill swarms feed on algae near the surface of the water. Then krill swim down to lower depths, and their carbon-filled waste drops down to the water at the bottom of the ocean. And when krill are eaten by predators, including humpback and blue whales, that carbon stays in their bodies for decades as a carbon sink, until they die, sink to the seafloor, and are consumed by deep-sea organisms. In effect, krill are a giant conveyor belt, constantly moving carbon from the surface down. Swarms of krill can number in the trillions of individuals, and when you take their impact in the Southern Ocean as a whole, the carbon they store in the deep ocean is the equivalent of taking 35 million cars off the road every year. Unfortunately, krill and the species that depend on them are under increasing threat, both from climate change and fishing to produce luxury products, including animal feed for farmed fish and krill oil supplements. As a planet, we have to act to protect krill, the ecosystems they uphold, and their critical role in climate change mitigation. Krill are much more valuable in the ocean than out, but to protect them, we need to protect their home.